Amber, it's so much fun to be doing this with you.
Very much so. Thank you for having me, Krisstina.
I'm so excited about this. And it's really fun because we're here in Austin together.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my podcasts are over Zoom. So this is exciting to be able to do it live in person and see how this goes.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here.
So you've just moved to Austin.
I did, yes.
How is it?
I love it. We were just briefly chatting before, and I love the community here. So many heart-centered entrepreneurs here doing amazing things in the world, and to just see energy so palpable. And I love the outdoorsy, health-conscious community here. And yeah, it's just really the community, I think, is everyone's so friendly. Mm-hmm. I've really never lived in such a friendly place. So I'm really enjoying meeting everybody and just exploring what the city has to offer, and really getting into some of the beautiful natural spots has become more of a focus. Like, where can I go to Hamilton Pool and some of the cool springs? There's just so much around us here.
Yeah, many people didn't even realize that,
yes.
Austin is so full of many natural resources and fun things to do. And I've actually been here for 22 years. And so it's been really cool just to see the city. It's really grown, and it's grown up, which is so fun because it's always had this vibe. It's always had something special, this little special energy to it. Mm-hmm. And to see it kind of grow up into that, which we'll talk about, that's kind of what entrepreneurialism is. It starts with an idea, with a vibe, with a passion, and then it grows into something amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's been fun to be part of that. And then it's really exciting to see those come in new that actually reinvigorate me, for example. Like, we have all these incredible things.
Absolutely. It's really become this beacon. I feel like all of my friends from all over the country and all over the world are all of a sudden flocking to Austin. There's something here energetically that's really exciting. So,
well, let's talk about that. I think energy is going to be a big focus of our conversation today. And so for everybody watching and those listening, of course, this is Amber Sears, recently married. Mm-hmm. And how has that been?
It's been wonderful. I mean, I never thought I'd get married. I never thought I wanted to have kids. And when I met JP, it was really this, like, what I would say soul recognition, where I just was like, oh, you're the reason I waited to find the right partner and to settle down with the right partner. So it felt like a fairy tale, honestly. And we just bought our dream home here in Austin. So it just feels very magical and very much meant to be. So yeah, I'm feeling more content and feel more centered and peaceful than ever before in a relationship, where I'm just not worried about anything like that. It's just, it's growing, and we're growing together. We're learning a lot, but and it's challenging in some ways, but really it just feels so right. So I'm happy.
You look so happy. I mean, you just radiate, which is so attractive. You just have this energy, and you do radiate in ways like, I just want to get to know her, and be friends with her, and interview her. So cool. If you would, tell the listeners a little bit about you. So what I love about your story and your work is I think it's so important today. And a little bit you shared with me was you were kind of in the rat race yourself. And so I'd love to talk about your background and your rat race and being in California and just going until finally you just woke up and said, I don't think this is working anymore. Or let me see if there's a different way, because this just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. So, to kind of nutshell everything, for those of you who don't know my story, I very much started in dance. Dance was always my life. I grew up, my parents put me in ballet when I was 3 years old, and I would dance my whole life competitively, and went on to dance professionally after getting my degree in dance performance and choreography. And so I was dancing professionally in San Francisco. And so being in that industry from a very young age, I was forced to be very professional, very disciplined. I really didn't have a childhood where I could just play and have fun. But I was really pursuing something that lit me up inside, that was really my gift and something I was so passionate about. So I was always following my heart, which felt really good. But after college, I was like, wait, so what am I going to do with this now? Am I going to dance professionally? Okay, cool. But that's going to be a short-lived career. So what can I do outside of that to make money? And so I started exploring Pilates. I actually had a really big transformation with Pilates mat. I actually, in college, it was part of our maintenance program, where every morning we'd have an hour of Pilates mat before going into our training. And I was able to basically rehabilitate a lot of my acute and chronic injuries with Pilates. And so that was this huge transformation in my own life. And then I became really passionate about Pilates, and I wanted to teach it. So I went on to get certified in all of the equipment and the mat. And so that was my way to really start building a private client base, because I could then take on private clients and classes around my dance schedule. So that's really where, I'd say the business aspect of my life started, was really after college and starting to build that. And around the same time, I started my website, Epic Self. And Epic Self was just a blog, a health and wellness blog. So I was a blogger, and I was actually making a pretty passive income coming in on the side. Like, it was just like $1,000 a month, but it was a great little thing to add to my repertoire. And it was about stuff I really was passionate about. And so that's when I got into social media and started building this following. Surrounding just the things I was passionate about: nutrition, Pilates, yoga, dance, and specifically plant-based nutrition. So I went on to get certified in plant-based nutrition and yoga because those were also big passions of mine that had really transformed my life. And so I was like, I want to give back and start helping people with these things. And so what happened over time is, like, as Skype became available and I started to just see technology shift, I was like, I can actually build my business online, teaching what I love from anywhere in the world. And I started producing retreats around that time as well, and wanting to just have this more location independent lifestyle where I could travel and teach what I love around the world and really just run my business from my laptop. That was like my end goal. Now, it took me a while to get there. And so in San Francisco, I found myself just in the rat race talking about that grind. I was in San Francisco for 8 years, private clients. I had 6 a day, oftentimes 6 days a week. I rarely gave myself a day off. Like, I had Sunday off from clients, but that was when I was blogging and doing social media and doing all these other things online that I thought would help my online business. So I really never took a day off. I was working 18-hour days and really just driving myself into the ground. I didn't have time or energy for a romantic partner. I wasn't dating. I also wasn't drinking, so I wasn't into the party scene, and I just had a hard time finding guys that were, I guess, like what I was looking for in San Francisco. And so I found myself just diving into work. I was like, well, if I'm not going to focus on finding a guy and going into the dating scene, then I'll focus on my business. And I didn't even make time for girlfriends. I didn't have any solid women relationships in my life. And that was really, looking back now, I'm like, that was a huge, huge mistake, is not having sisterhood, like solid, inspiring, empowering sisterhood around me. And so I was really isolating myself. And in my early 20s, I also went through a huge, let's say, chapter of my life with bulimia. And so bulimia became a really big part of my life that was really self-destructive. And a lot of it was from all the pressure from growing up in the dance industry, and also all the pressure I was putting on myself to perform on social media and to perform as a coach and all these things. So though externally everything looked awesome, inside I was really self-destructive and I was super unhappy. So I put on this happy face, like everything's great, but inside I was really just so out of balance. And so it got so bad in San Francisco where I just hit a wall of exhaustion and adrenal fatigue. And I was at that point, right before I moved to Costa Rica and decided to move my whole life down there. I was teaching in Mexico once a month. I was teaching like a week down there at a destination spot, and then 3 weeks in San Francisco with my private clients. And I was just doing anything I could to kind of escape the city and still and maintain some balance of connection to nature and connection to some, like-minded, like-hearted entrepreneurs and colleagues within that retreat center. So there was just trying to find balance and realizing I really need a huge shift. I can't continue functioning like this. I can only charge so much per hour for my services. I can't work more hours. How do I escape this? How do I scale my business and really create a better lifestyle? So I was invited to teach at the Envision Festival. This was like 5.5 years ago. The Envision Festival is a yoga music dance festival in Costa Rica every year, and it draws about 5,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And I was invited to teach by a dear friend who runs a retreat center down there. And he invited me, and I was like, okay, I guess I can take 2 weeks off, even though that was like really hard for me to do. And I really just resisted it the whole time. So anyway, I get down there and I fall madly in love with this country, the culture, the people, the entrepreneurs I met. These men and women were literally living their dream in paradise. They had created their dream wellness centers, retreat centers, spas. They owned multiple homes. They were just living in such balance and peace with nature too, and having like real tight community. And I said, these people are embodying Pura Vida, what Pura Vida means, which is like enjoy, like pure life. And Costa Ricans really embody that as well. And they just have a really different value system down there. They very much value connection to each other, connection to nature, and material possessions, because it is still a second world country. Material possessions they're not trying to join us in that rat race of making more money and having more status and having more things. That doesn't matter to them. And so it was such a breath of fresh air. And I'm like, oh my God, look at these people are so happy. They're so happy. What is that? I want to know how to do that. I want to know how to live like that. And so I went back to San Francisco and ended up deciding I was going to move back to Costa Rica and I was going to move everything to Costa Rica and open up a wellness center. So this whole idea came about. So I closed all my business in San Francisco, all my clients, left my dance career and just said, it's time to start fresh and completely new slate. And let's see what can happen down here. Because I was just at that wit's end, that rock bottom of like, I have nowhere else to go.
And what did rock bottom feel like? Like, what were the thoughts? What were the feelings? What were the struggles? Because again, I mean, we live in this world, especially with social media, like you said, that everything looks perfect on the outside. Yeah. So it's kind of this illusion. It's like, man, I want to have her. She's beautiful. She's got this great business and she's dancing and she's yoga and she goes on retreats and I want to live just like her.
Sure.
I want to look just like her.
Sure.
But on the inside, there's a lot of internal struggle. So what was that dialogue? What was happening behind the curtain?
Behind the curtain was at the time before I made the jump was deep depression. I had no idea. I felt trapped, depressed. Also just very, there's a lot of guilt and shame there around projecting something that wasn't really my truth. And so I learned over time how to really be more vulnerable with my social media posts and to share the struggles and the ups and downs, because that's actually what connects me to my audience. If I just project this perfect image, then unfortunately it's not nearly as inspiring because you're not real. So I learned over time, like actually being real is actually more important. It's better for you. And it's also better for business. And so that's really when I started to shift my dialogue online. But still, I do write a lot of inspiring, empowering, motivational stuff online that I really love to be that light for people. But at the same time, I want to be real and talk about the struggles. So yeah, I'd say those were like the deepest emotions. And it was really just, that's what propelled me. That suffering is what propelled me into making that leap and just figuring it out on the way down.
And so what was that moment of, because even so much of when a lot of people come to me and kind of the narrative, this comment is, I'd like to make a change, but my life is just so crazy and it's so backed up and it's so full. I can't make time to go to a 3-day retreat. I can't make time to take a new course or workshop. And I couldn't just pick up and take off. And is that more maybe of an excuse or?
Big time. It's just a lack of prioritizing what matters to you. So for me, it's really getting clear about what matters to you. If you need time off, you have to prioritize it. You have to build in that balance. You have to kind of mandate it initially because it does go against your standard operation, your standard pattern. So you do have to have that pattern interrupt. And so maybe that's your partner saying, hey, you need a break. We need to go on a yoga retreat for 7 days, or we need to go do something that's going to break you out of this current pattern that you're in, and unplug and reconnect to yourself, reconnect to your body, reconnect to nature, reconnect to what matters to you. Because deep down, we all have a why, a reason why we're driven towards making more money, seeking this status, whatever it is that many of us in the US are trying to reach. But at the end of the day, it's about your present moments. It's about how you're enjoying the journey versus just getting from point A to point B. And so Costa Rica and also all my training with yoga has really taught me how to just focus on being present and focus on enjoying the process, because there is no end. We're continually always evolving and shifting and changing, but it's who we are along the journey. I think that matters.
It's so true. And I think if I hear what you're saying too, is that you had really this contrast of life in the States, life in San Francisco, which is a very fast, kind of keep up with the Joneses city,
very
and
much so.
Totally comparing yourself with the next entrepreneur's doing and how great they're doing and how much money they're making and where they're living and what car they're driving and a lot of social pressure there. Yeah. And we don't know what we don't know. We're in the fishbowls that we're in. And so we normalize that. Yeah. And we're just trying to fit in and make it work. And man, it looks like it's working for them. Why isn't it working for me? Right. And so then it's working harder, trying harder to make it what it looks like everybody else has gotten figured out.
Yeah.
So, but then what you did is you put yourself in a radically different environment.
Totally different. Yeah.
And so you had this contrast. So contrast these two environments. One was pretty intense and constant pressure. And another one was
the total opposite. Totally relaxed and chill. And people would look at me like I was insane. Like I would be like, so how come the internet isn't plugged in yet? How come it's not fast enough? Like I was hitting all these walls, and the Costa Ricans are like, chill out. Like muy tranquilo. Like everything's cool. Life is beautiful. Like relax. That's how they live their life. That's just how they think. So for them, like it's okay to be 20 minutes late to a meeting because they were chatting with a friend on the way to the meeting, because that connection with their friend was more important than being on time. So they have different value systems, but I love that about Costa Ricans because they live in flow. They just embody that, and they really value being present and connecting more so than let's be on time and let's do this and that. And so of course I was triggered so much moving to this like super slow beach town because I'm used to things happening so rapidly. Like the internet was literally a fraction of what I had in San Francisco in terms of speed. And so I had this whole business model of like, I'm going to do live video classes from my studio. I'm going to do these live online courses and stuff like that. I could do none of that once I moved down there because the internet was so bad. So now it's a lot better, but back then it wasn't. And so I really had to then adapt and shift my business model as well. And so that was really stressful. Was I opened up the studio, I had daily classes and retreats and trainings, but during low season, there wouldn't be anybody for days coming into the studio. Like for days. And so I'm just burning money, right? And overhead, just being, I can't do this. So I ended up closing the doors in the studio because number one, it tethered me to the space 24/7. And I ended up working more than I was in San Francisco, which was totally not what I wanted. And I wanted to be location independent. So then I just took my whole business online and started producing retreats and trainings and doing mainly online coaching versus in-person coaching.
And how long did it take for this shift to happen? Because we're a product of our environment. So we are like intense and fast-paced. Go from here, go to there, get this done, get more done, get, everywhere here. We are been out of shape if we have to stand in line for 5 minutes.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And, it's that velocity that's just so fast that there's no time to actually slow down or have space. How long did it take you to where that finally that normalized and then coming back to this environment, you're like, whoa, what the hell?
Yeah, the culture shock coming back is really intense for me. And moving back to the States part-time has been, big shocker to me. But yeah, I would say it took me probably about 6 months to really chill out and to really I had to reframe a lot of things. So, okay, sure, it's taking me 2 weeks to get internet connected. Okay, so practicing patience. Practicing just, all right, well, if the internet goes out today, which many times it would, like the electricity would go out, the water would go out. All right, I guess it's a beach day, right? So you just have to learn how to flow and adapt and just trust that whatever is going on, the process that's happening is just how it's supposed to be. So I had to really learn how to just surrender, really, and flow with what was happening. And of course, it always works out fine. Like it wasn't the end of the world that you didn't get the internet that day. It was totally fine. But I think we build up this story around like everything has to be this way, this way, this way. If it's not this way, it's just going to fall apart. And the reality is that's so not true. You actually might gain so much more by taking that break to go to the beach, which I know for me, it's like my sanctuary. It's where I can fill my own cup. And so I actually gained so much more doing that than sitting and stressing about why something isn't working on my website. So it's like really being able to interject those breaks with something that I learned that if I'm going to work this hard, I need to build in the balance by taking those beach breaks and walking my dog and just having that downtime.
Mm-hmm. And now that you've come back to the States, because you moved from Costa Rica to get married and to relocate back to the States.
Yeah.
One, how does it feel?
Mm-hmm.
And then two, now that this is the environment again, in Austin, Texas, we've got a little chill, but we've got some fast-paced
there's some
competition going on too.
Very much so.
And just your work in general.
Yeah.
What are some of the principles and or practices or rituals that you've learned that are so important to your kind of your mental health, your emotional health, filling your cup, like you said, while still building your business and being the entrepreneur that you are? What you're doing individually, the work that you're doing with JP and this new marriage thing. Yeah. So life is full, right?
Very full.
So what are some things that you're bringing back that to make sure that those aren't lost once we get back to this type of environment? Like what could everybody listening maybe take from your experience there?
Yeah. So for me, what has always been my grounding tool and so necessary is carving out that self-care time. So an hour and a half a day to meditate, practice yoga, lift weights, go to a dance class, whatever it is that really lights me up inside. And everyone's really different. So for some people that might be painting, singing, like doing something that they really, really love. But I definitely think movement needs to be a huge focus because I feel like most people in modern day society, we're living from the neck up and we're so stuck in our minds, but we really need to tap back into our body wisdom and if we're feeling scattered, disconnected, ungrounded, stressed, and anxious, the body is also holding that as well. But if you can work on the body and help realign, ground, center, strengthen and build flexibility, open up the body, that's when the mind also shifts, because of course they're connected. So I always say, like, movement is really my saving grace, always has been, for expressing things that maybe I can't express through my words, for releasing emotional baggage that may be held in my tissues from all of my work stress or whatever. And then for centering the mind and helping just clear out the clutter and not stress so much about stuff that doesn't matter. So for me, movement has always been that. And then meditation is also a super powerful tool. So just even sitting for 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at the end of the day. I meditate twice a day, in the morning when I get up and before I go to bed. And for me, that's just this beautiful opportunity to once again tap into my body, my heart, my soul, and really connect to my intentions for the day. And also just be grateful and talk about things I'm grateful for. It's a great time to have prayers if you guys pray, like just really putting some mindful intention into your day and into not only what do you want to do, but how you want to be in the world. Because I think we're always thinking about, what do I want to do? I got this checklist, but really, how do I want to feel? And how do I want to be in the world with myself and with other people and with my work? Right. So you can really, if you set that parameter before you start working, I think it just changes everything.
So it sounds like the movement piece is just get up, go for a walk, go for yoga.
Yes.
But really, I think so many people, we struggle trying to find time, carve out time. It's like, no, it's not carving out time to go find movement.
Right.
It's like the movement's built in and everything else works around this.
Exactly.
And the meditation, it's not where the hell do I find 10 minutes or 20 minutes to meditate? No, you don't find it. It's starting there, and then everything else works from there.
Yeah.
So it's really what I call like this, we almost have to reverse engineer our lives.
Yes.
In a way.
Yes.
It's switching everything around versus trying to find time to meditate. It's not, like meditate first, try to find time to work. It's like, go have coffee with your girlfriend and find time to do the laundry.
Yes.
That type of thing. So it's backwards.
It's so backwards. It's so backwards. And I always said, because people always tell me, I don't have time to meditate. I'm like, meditation actually gives you your time back because it helps you be more present and more clear in all your decision making and how you are in the world. So you're going to enjoy your life more because you're more present with what's going on right now. You're not so worried about past stories and future projections. And so it actually gifts you way more time. Time slows down when you're meditating because you really are so present. You're not just thinking about the next thing as you're having a conversation. So it slows things down.
And you've said the word many times, and these little squeaks are the chairs we're sitting on for anybody listening, so hopefully it's not annoying. But, you've said this word a couple times, is to be present.
Yeah.
And like you said, these environments we're all in this race to be more successful faster, to make more money faster, to get to the proverbial there faster, which there's no there out there. I mean, there's just here, right? There's here right now. There's a future out there, but we don't know what that is. What we think it is or expect it is will probably be totally different because we're stressing out about a there that's not even happened yet. And we're missing the here.
It's all an illusion. Seriously, just a mental illusion.
But we're in these environments that it's even though we're not directly competing, it's as though we're competing. We're competing to have the status that everybody else is having. We're competing to fit in so that we make the same amount of money as others that we think that we're supposed to fit in with. And we're competing that our businesses do to be more successful, or there's just some place we're trying to get to. And we're missing this presence in this chase and in this, like I said, this fast pace, need to get there faster. And if I can just get there faster, then I'll worry about being present in the future.
Right. Someday I'll be happy. Someday I'll be happy. Someday I'll be present. Yeah.
So what do you have to say about that? Again, like coming back to this place of presence, because I know your life. You're full.
Oh, very full. It's intense.
And it's just so funny. I find it with myself too, because meditation is a really important practice. And a lot of things you're talking about, movement and exercise and conversation. Yet I find myself saying, I can't even tell you, like every day I'm thinking, I don't have time to meditate today. And I laugh at that because that's the story. I've got so much to do. I'm backed up and I'm going here, there. Like I'm going to cut out the meditation today. And I catch myself like almost every day in that same silly dialogue.
Right.
Now that's a ritual. So I hold it, but I crack myself up thinking, like, does that ever stop? But
and I think that's a great question. Does it ever stop? And I think everyone's so different, right? And the stories that we replay over and over again. And I think that what I always come back to is, someone said this to me one time, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. in order to follow your heart, you have to offend your mind. So if your heart and your soul are like, you need meditation, you need to go work out, you need to do these things that are going to nourish you and fill you up. It's what's required is for you to offend the mind that's like, nope, you got to be productive because that's what your value is. Like these are old programs. And so much of the work I do is to help people rewire those belief systems and let go of these old paradigms, because we've just been so indoctrinated our entire life. And it's hard when you're in a culture where everyone around you is doing that. It's like you're just swimming upstream the whole time. And so the comparison syndrome, which you talked about so much, is something I've had to work with a lot, especially coming back into the States and feeling overwhelmed with, wow, there's so much going on here. And so for me, it was just minimizing my social media. So I don't actually spend a lot of time on social media looking at other people's things. I just post my own work there, and I just focus on the communication and the relationships I'm building with the people on my feed, but I'm actually not doing a lot of research and looking at other people. And that's something I recommend to my clients too, because otherwise you're just going to be always in that comparison syndrome, and that will stop you at every step of the way when you're trying to put your own work out there, because you're constantly comparing. And so that's one of the biggest hurdles I think a lot of entrepreneurs have, is they're like, oh, like, either they're number one being super competitive, which makes them, unfortunately, when you're super competitive, you're really disconnected from what matters to you, because you're just doing it for the competition aspect. It's actually not because it's fulfilling and it's rewarding to you, but it's because you just want to win, right? And so I think one of the keys is to, number one, cut out all of that media and all of that need to look at other people's stuff. And then number two is coming back to remembering why you're doing what you're doing, and what's the purpose behind it? What's the deeper why? Is it just because you want to make money, or is there a more fulfilling deep meaning too?
Yeah. And so when you talk about value system and what you really discovered and felt and became a part of in Costa Rica is a different value system. So it's really looking at, what do we value?
Yeah.
And if we value love and conversation and relationships, then our actions or what we design has to support that value.
Totally.
But when the value system is keep up with the Joneses,
yes.
And in my work, I help people with money.
Yeah.
And so I see, or at least listen to people's financial situations. And,
sure.
and what's very common, again, this just is very normal, and it's invisible because it's so normal. But because we're in that culture, number one, there's all that stress, but then we've got these financial obligations to keep that grind and that stress more so. Yeah. And then we up that to keep up even more. And then so we're in this rat race on this hamster wheel. And the financial situations are a lot because I have to have a certain car for status and that car payment, that emblem. I need to wear certain shoes or have a certain bag, and I need to have a certain house in a certain neighborhood. And I want to go out and eat and go to fancy restaurants. I'm going to put those on my credit card. And then I'm very stressed out. So if I can just put something on Amazon and get a nice little package to show up. So the same thing I'm seeing, it's actually the feeling, the stress and the feeling is on one side, and the pragmatic, like hardcore black and white number side is showing up on the financial statement. So what do you say, like Costa Rica, for example, and I lived there for about 15 months, many years ago, but same thing, I experienced that they're not attached to that at all. They are just fully into conversation. And when I lived there, I taught English on the side to make money. And what I loved about it, and again, coming from the States and being down there and even coming back and realizing, we get just caught up in this busyness again. But I had all these students because Costa Rica is really, it's such a peaceful country that many other Latin American people come to Costa Rica because it's safe and just politically it's I don't know, it's different than a lot of the turmoil going into a lot of the other Latin American countries. And so my students, I taught English, so they came to me to learn English. And so, I had students from Argentina, from Cuba, from Mexico, from Peru, from Caracas, Venezuela, this whole, all of them. But when I was teaching them, what did they do? They invited me over for dinner, and they were just so happy. And many of them didn't even have much. They're just so excited. I'm there, and the family and the kids are all making dinner and talking, and they're trying to talk English, and I'm trying to talk my broken Spanish. We didn't really speak the same language, but we're just loving it, and people are laughing, and we're eating off each other's plates. And it was just such this beautiful experience, because wherever it was, and Cubans were really, proud of the Cuban food, and Argentinians were really proud of the Argentinian food. So, and I was just so lit up because everything was really family, and it was conversation over dinner, open up a bottle of wine. And here, like, we try to organize, get together with dinner here and there, but it's like, you know what? Don't have time for it. So how do we reverse this value system? Because that's what I noticed as well, that the value really, they bring you over to their little cardboard house and they're totally okay with that.
Absolutely. And they're serving you rice and beans, and that's what they can afford. And they're so proud of that. Yes. And they're so happy just to have you. And I think, because I feel like, back in the days, America was a lot like that as well. Like, there was a lot of emphasis around family dinners and just family time. And we've so lost that nowadays. And so really what I've had to do is carve out, is prioritize, once again, prioritize that social time. So coming back to the States and moving into Austin, one of my first priorities, besides getting set up and figuring out where the grocery store was to find tribe, was to really build community, because I knew that part of my nourishment and part of what keeps me going and inspired is having like-minded, like-hearted people around me to keep me inspired and motivated, and vice versa, so I can support them as well. That social system is so necessary, because I lacked that so much in my previous life. I isolated myself so much. And of course I was suffering, because all we really want is connection with each other. At the end of the day, the reason that we're fighting for more money and more status and all this stuff is so that we can have actually deeper bonds with people, right? Because we're constantly comparing and trying to achieve and all this stuff so that we can somehow be accepted by other people. When in actuality, we can just be accepted by having a good conversation, right? We don't have to have a Gucci bag or Chanel sunglasses, right? And so I think that's where the shift has to happen, is prioritizing these social engagements and making friends with people who value that too. So it's like, hey, come on over, like, be the first to invite people over to have dinner, the first to plan a little like park outing, right? And it's going to be hard at first, because that's so against what you know. But the reality is, once you're in that, you're like, this is so fun. I can't believe I've waited years to bring people together and to have a gathering and to just have fun and play, because when do we play? Play needs to be a priority. And that's something JP's really taught me, because he's a comedian. He loves to just be super playful in every conversation, every engagement that we are a part of. And so he's really taught me the power of play and the power of celebration, and how can we weave that more into our lives with more balance. And so it has to be a priority. So now, like, I get together with friends in Austin now, like at least once or twice a week. My weekends are kind of dedicated to social time. And during the week, it's less, but I even will go co-work with my dear friend Lynanne, who lives in town, just to have that sisterhood and just to have that connection throughout the week. So I think there's a lot of ways to build it in, but it has to be a priority.
It just has to be a priority.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what about, so we've talked about presence, we've talked about a little bit about community and tribe.
Yeah.
But the word in there, and it's so funny that we're more connected than we've ever been because of all these social tools. We can be connected with people around the world and have all sorts of conversations. Yeah. Yet people feel lonelier than they've ever felt. Absolutely. And more isolated than they've ever felt.
Yeah.
Like, how is that?
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's just because I think we've lost the importance of energetic exchange in, like, being in person with each other, right? So we can be hyper connected with our friend who's over, you can do Zoom with them and talk with them if they're overseas, and that's so cool. And JP and I actually started our relationship that way on Skype. That was how we built connection. But then ultimately, it's the experiences that we share together that really build that deep connection. So if we're just chatting online or texting or whatever, not even on the phone call, I really strongly believe there's an energetic exchange that's happening when we're together. And even on a phone call, there's an energy exchange, and same with Zoom. But yeah, these other ways, and I think comparison syndrome is a huge part of that, because we're constantly comparing ourselves by looking at everybody's highlight reels, but then we feel less than, and then we're even less likely to reach out to XYZ because they've got this perfect life, and how can I ever keep up with them? And so I think it's just, unfortunately, creating that low self-esteem and that low self-worth to even know that it's okay, reach out, like, let's go hang out with that person.
And then how much are you saying no to things to keep your priority? Because where you are right now, you have so many opportunities on the forefront. You can say yes to 10 million different things because your world's opening up that way. Yeah. And so how do you keep that in priority? Because there's this inclination too, like, I don't want to miss a great opportunity.
Oh, sure. That's another syndrome, right? This fear of missing out. That's definitely a thing I see in younger entrepreneurs, people who are coming out of college and they have this fear of missing out. I want to be in 10,000 places at one time, and God forbid I miss that social gathering. Like, that's the other extreme, right? Is like the social butterfly who wants to be a part of everything. So for me, that's definitely my tendency, is to want to be a part of everything. And so I've had to learn over the years, number one, how to say no to things that, especially if I'm focusing on building my business, I need to say no to things that aren't going to be financially rewarding to me. And I worked for free for so many years doing free workshops and classes and online webinars and all this stuff, and realizing I need to really value my time and energy way more now than ever before, and really hold my worth and say no to the things that are freebies and cool things that might be cool experiences that aren't actually serving my business. So, and then like most recently, I've been thinking about starting a podcast actually, because there's all this like podcast stuff happening right now, and everybody's like, yeah, do a podcast. I would listen. It would be so cool.
I saw your post actually.
Yeah,
you asked your tribe if
awesome.
you
and
want to do a
I had
podcast.
so many great comments. Everyone's like, yeah, do it. But I'm thinking, I know how much time and energy goes into this for you and for JP and for all these other podcasters. Like it's a big time commitment. And I'm thinking in my mind right now, is that really going to be worth the time right now? Maybe in 4 months I can do it. Great. But I have a bunch of productions coming up. So it's not really the right time to start that right now. And I know it'd be great long-term for personal development and for my business development, because I love these conversations too. So I see it being so beneficial, like you said, a passion project. At the same time, I'm like, is that the smart financial choice right now? So a lot of it gets down to finance for me, because in the past, I used to make a lot of decisions based on what I really wanted to experience, and then ended up suffering financially because of it and being pulled in 1,000 directions and doing way more work than what was required.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you do a lot on social media. I mean, you have a very big following. You've been doing this for a long time. You're very good at it. And it's the way, and in a good way, like you're helping people and have built a community around that.
Sure.
At the same time, I mean, Kirk and I notice this all the time, and we make comments about it. In fact, it wasn't last night, it was just the night before. Where were we? Anyway, we were at Thai Fresh, is a great little Thai place here in Austin. And we're having dinner with a good friend of ours, Lynn Graft, and he's storytelling for entrepreneurs. He really helps entrepreneurs figure out their story and create that story for the website and for brand, basically.
Yeah.
Like he's an expert in that.
Cool.
Anyway, the three of us, we're just got together, we're having dinner, we're just chatting up, and of course, just a great time. Lynn's just like one of the best people in the world. And then we look to our left and to like right behind us, and this couple over here were on their devices the entire time.
Yeah.
So they're there to eat. It's not inexpensive. I mean, you're looking at $20 to $25 a plate to eat.
Yes.
And they're on their devices. And we look right over here, same thing, a couple on their devices. Yeah. So again, like we're right here in this physical space where we can look at each other's eyes and actually touch each other and engage and get this energetic connection and this flow. Yet people feel more comfortable doing this.
Yes.
Do you have anything to say about that?
I think it's an addiction, honestly. I think it's an addiction to the likes, the comments, engagement. And I've struggled with this a lot over the years as a social media person, because I definitely have built my business through social media. That's the main way that I build my business in terms of selling out my retreats and trainings and my coaching programs. It's all through social media organically. And so because of that, it's very easy to get sucked in and have it be a full-time job. Just to be on Instagram can be a full-time job if you let it. So you have to set up these boundaries around, okay, these are the times I'm posting. This is how much time I'm going to spend on creating the content. So I give myself 30 minutes each day to create the content for Instagram. You have, do this many videos on Instagram stories. Like I have a strategy, because otherwise I would just be lost in it. It's so easy to just become addicted to that and checking your phone every 10 minutes to see what likes you're getting, what comments you're getting. And a lot of it is all designed, of course, by the social networks, because they want you to be engaged on the platform. If you're not engaged with your comments that are coming in, then you don't get seen as much. So unfortunately, it's all built in to make you super addicted to it. And so I think that's one of our challenges nowadays, is how do we set up those proper boundaries to say no to the phone? So one of the things that we do when we're out is we'll play this kind of phone game where we just like pile up our phones, and the first person to reach for the phone has to pay for the bill.
Ooh,
so it's a really good way to like just kind of force this social thing. Is like, okay, we're going to put our phones away, and the first person to pick it up has to pay. And that works, because people definitely don't want to pay for the whole meal for everybody. And chances are they do really want to connect with you in person. So that's a fun way. Or just leaving your phones at home is really a good way to do that too. But when it's out of sight, it's out of mind.
It really is. Yeah. And that's actually very helpful to me, because I really stay off social media, because I just watch it and see it. And we all have our little addictive personalities. So I just don't even go there. So I don't use social media for my business at all. I mean, I'll post some things here and there, but I may be on social media in the aggregate of all channels and everything, maybe an hour a week. And that's just kind of going through. Awesome. Well, it is on one hand, but it's bad for business on the other.
Sure.
So, but that's really helpful, is to just know, okay, if we're going to use social, even if we want to engage and talk to people socially, that it's really within a system or a time frame or some sort of boundary. Yeah. Because I'm thinking, if you're seeing couples out at a restaurant, what are they doing at home?
Yes.
You know, gosh, and I see people are grabbing their phone first thing when they get out of bed, and they're on social media checking Facebook, and their lover is right next to them. And now both people are in bed checking. And then you can just see the damage this is going to do, not only to us individually, and like you said, the comparison syndrome and the isolation and keeping up with and that type of thing, but what is it doing just with our own relationships?
Exactly. And that's why, you know, JP has a great rule about social media, and he's actually helped me with this because I often am the first one to get up. The first thing I do is I'll get up, I'll check my phone for any, let's say, urgent messages, and then I'll go out and meditate and do my routine. But he was the first to be like, Amber, this has really helped me in my life, and maybe you want to consider it, which is for the first hour that you're awake, don't touch your phone. Don't check anything, because that's also a really powerful time for us in the morning where we're kind of in this, let's say, gray zone of waking up and sleeping. And so we're actually more susceptible to these messages early in the morning. And so if we're in that reactive let's say pattern right away, it's like we're programming ourselves to just be reactionary versus choosing when we're going to respond. So he really helped me with that boundary. He's like, so try this practice. And I was like, oh, this is great. And same thing before bed. So an hour before bed, or even 2 hours before bed, put the phone away. So one of the things I do, because a lot of my posts, like they actually get more visibility and more engagement at night. And so I'll post it between probably 9 p.m. every night. And then I just put my phone away and I don't touch it for the rest of the night. And that way, then I have that connection time with JP in the morning and at night. And of course, throughout the day as well. But that really just creates that sacred time for us to be together without our devices.
And I love the word sacred. And, and protecting the sacred time. Like, social media is not sacred.
No. You know? No. And it'll be the first to disconnect you from your device.
Exactly. So holding that sacred. And I think that's just such great advice. And even what I love about that wake up time is you're kind of coming out of dream state. And it's just this different brainwave state before, you know, the kind of beta waves get going crazy and we get in that get shit done mode. So that's like the best loving space to actually spend time with your partner and or even with yourself for that matter.
Exactly. Like instead of doing that, I could just go meditate right away and connect to myself in a super deep way. And then decide how I'm going to respond to life versus reacting to it. I think that's the key difference, because I used to be so just reactionary. Get up. Okay, my mind's going 1,000 to-dos. Okay, get on my phone. All right, all these messages I got to respond to. And instead of pausing and saying, is this the best use of my time right now? And you know, could I actually be doing something that's, let's say, A, supporting my health and my filling my own cup, or B, making me money? Like, you know, just like thinking more priority wise, rather than just reacting to what's going on. Because social media breeds you, or it teaches you how to just be reactionary.
It really does. Yeah. Those dings, those notifications, you know, they're just distractions.
Dopamine hits.
Exactly. Little dopamine hits. And then what about kind of the idea, another thing, just with my own experience in Costa Rica, using that as an example. It's just simplifying.
Exactly.
Like I just see that our lives are just, we've created this chaos or this complexity and adding too much, and our kids have to be in 6 different activities and, you know, just whatever the case is, but it's just complex, more complexity. So we're adding more on versus looking for places to take more off. So is anything like factored in there just as far as how do we just be okay with living a simpler life?
Well, I think the key is just to experiment with it, because I think everyone's different in terms of what they kind of need to be secure, centered, and grounded in how they make their decisions, how they run their business, how they have balance in their life. But simplicity is always the number one thing. And I think as entrepreneurs, we're even more programmed to be that way anyway, like more efficient, more productive. So simplifying things for me has been a real focus. So building systems in to automate a lot of the stuff that I do so that I don't have to do the things that I'm not, let's say they're not my core genius and I'm not like lit up inside to do them. So I'm sure having an assistant and a team and all those cool things, like many of you guys on this video probably who are watching or have those teams already in place. But it's how can you leverage your time and money even more so that you can actually build in that flexibility and freedom? Because I think a lot of us are slaves to our business. And I think the key is how can we build a better system?
Well, we become entrepreneurs. So we have the freedom and flexibility that we don't have to, organize our lives around what the boss says. Yes. Our business has become our boss. Absolutely. And we're not the boss of our business in a way. And so, again, we work harder as entrepreneurs and longer hours typically, even though that's the reason why
we left.
Exactly. Absolutely. So I'd like to shift a little bit to your work. And you do these retreats and one of these retreats, for example, is in Costa Rica. And you've incorporated obviously nutrition and just your like you said, plant-based medicine, the way you describe it.
Yeah.
But it's with food and nutrition as well as some plants.
Yes.
So how is that, like, one, I'd like you to talk about your work, but why have you brought in these different tools? Like, why are they such a significant part of your work? And any thoughts or advice you want to give to people listening?
Sure. So right now, my one primary retreat that's really, really popular that sells out like 9 months in advance, it's really incredible, the transformations that come from it, is a shamanic yoga retreat. So I specifically, over the last 5 years, have dove extensively into the plant medicine world, working specifically with ayahuasca, which is a master plant from the Amazon. And so this plant and this ancient tradition is really helping people heal mind, body, and spirit on many, many levels. It's helping them clear emotional baggage, heal physical ailments, rewire their brain, their mind, releasing these old patterns that we're talking about today, these paradigms and programs we have. And so for me, it's been the most fulfilling work. I personally started this journey because I sat my first ayahuasca ceremony five and a half years ago now. And I had such a massive transformation from the inside out that I said, oh my gosh, this is one of the most powerful modalities, if not the most powerful modality that we have on earth to be working with for our own healing and awakening. And so I went through a really big spiritual awakening over the last 5.5 years. That's how I would define it, is like a spiritual awakening. But so at the time, though, I was already producing retreats where I was incorporating yoga and Pilates and plant-based nutrition and cool day adventures. So I already had this model set up. And I was using all the tools that had really helped me in my life. And so I'm like, how can I basically create the most transformative retreat for my guests, mind, body, and spirit, and help them radically change their lives forever? That's my number one goal and intention with all these retreats. So once I found ayahuasca and I experienced my own massive healing, because I sat in probably about 10 ceremonies before I started actually weaving this work into my productions. And so kind of what happened is I was running a yoga retreat, and I never even thought to weave them together until this happened. So I had a yoga retreat that backed up against a monthly ceremony that they had at the Shamanic Healing Center that I'd go to every month. Like at that time, I was sitting every month for my own work. And it just so happened it backed up against one of my yoga retreats. And I happened to share it with my guests. I was like, hey guys, so I've been doing this personal work for myself for 10 months now. And I would really love to just share it with you. And there is a ceremony, there is an opportunity to go if you'd like to. Kind of just open invitation. All their hands go up. I want to go. I want to go. All 12 of them. And I was floored. I'm like, are you kidding me? You've never even heard of this plant before, this ancient tradition, but you're ready to go because they heard my story. So all of them come. They all have such deep, profound experiences. And it was so fulfilling to me to see these people so deeply connect to their hearts, their souls, to each other, to nature, that I said, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what I need to start weaving in. And so that's when the Epic Awakening was formed, which is the retreat I was just mentioning. It's a 5-day shamanic yoga retreat, and it incorporates 2 ayahuasca ceremonies and a ton of integration and coaching and many other aspects. So I basically took all the modalities I was already teaching and created a retreat that included ceremonies, and basically created the best preparation and post integration for this experience.
Which I do think is missing. That is a really missing component of, let's say, some of these ayahuasca retreats. As you go, you have the experience, but then you go right back to your old life, and there really isn't an opportunity to process it, to integrate it, to talk about it, to really spend time with it. Which is, if you go right back to the old life,
you're going to fall back into the same patterns.
Exactly.
It's like being immersed in the ocean when you're fish, and really, just falling back into the exact same patterns.
Yeah, and we talked about, when you and JP came over for dinner, we talked about our ayahuasca experience, and it's radically changed my life. I mean, to me, it just showed me, I had this full experience of what love really is.
Yes.
I realized I'd never really felt it before.
Yes, unconditional love. Yes.
Unconditional love is, isn't that all isn't at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want to feel, is just love, lovable, know what it actually feels like. And so I got that experience. It's like, okay, now that I know what it feels like, I can go practice that in the real world. But I had no frame for that. I thought I knew what it was, but I never fully experienced it. And and so everybody has their unique experiences, but it was just so healing. And I knew I would have never, never say never, but I don't think I would have ever had that experience and opportunity. I radically changed my life out of that experience. Yeah,
I don't think so either. That's what shook me to my core too, is that I was very anti medicine or anything that was mind altering, I was very against. I was a hardcore yogi, meditator, raw foodist for 8 years, 100% raw foodist. Talk about like purity and trying to be on the spiritual path. That was me. And I was very anti anything that was like a shortcut to enlightenment. But a lot of people have resistance to working with plant medicine just because they think it's maybe number one, they think it's a drug, which it's not. Number two, they think it's a shortcut to enlightenment, which to some extent it can be that, but it's not like you're cheating, because the reality is that you wouldn't be able to get to that space on your own. You'd have to sit on a mountain in the Himalayas for 30 years.
Right. It's like you go to a therapist to get some help, and we have different tools to get some help, and this is a really powerful tool.
Very, very
she doesn't mess around.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, as challenging as this work can be, because it definitely requires a lot of me to be able to hold space for these types of transformations, it is the most deeply fulfilling work. I cry every time after these retreats because of how much shifts and how much I feel this unconditional love that you speak of. And I'm seeing the shift happen in my clients. To me, that's the most rewarding thing.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, what is, for anybody that's maybe never heard of ayahuasca or has maybe heard of it because it's hard, it's kind of, it's, being spoken in different circles these days, but what is it? And why is it so effective?
Sure. So very simply, ayahuasca is a blend of two types of plants. So half chacruna, which is a leaf, and then half ayahuasca. And ayahuasca is the vine that is the name of the brew. So it's actually a brew. It takes about 3 days to break down literally like a mountain of vine, a mountain of leaves, and they break it all down and cook it down for 3 days to create this syrup. Basically, it's like an earthy, it doesn't taste good at all. It's like a bitter, earthy medicine that's almost like syrup, really thick. And you don't need a lot of it. It's a small cup that you drink. And what this medicine does is it's working on all levels. Like I mentioned before, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So it's helping heal the body in so many ways. So it's anti-parasitic, antifungal, antimicrobial, anti-parasitic, if I didn't already say that. So it's helping you clear your physical body of basically lower vibrational energies, whether that's a parasite or that's emotional baggage. It's also working, like I mentioned before, on the emotional body. So it's helping you clear pent-up emotion from not only this life, but past lives and also your ancestral line. So it's helping you clear these energetic signatures that we're holding in our body that are really preventing us from living our fullest, most authentic, happy lives because we have all this baggage that we're carrying around. So for me, like my first ceremony felt like I released 10 years of emotional baggage. It helped me process a lot of the emotions that I was stuffing down with food, with my lifestyle, And so, I really learned the power of emotions.
And things we're not even aware of.
Oh, yes, very much so. Things that, because our mind is so limited in its ability to understand. And the reality is that this is a 5,000-year-old tradition that's been used in the Amazon for thousands and thousands of years. But for us Westerners, we have no idea that this world exists. And so when you start to introduce people to it, they're like, what, really? And there's a plant out there that can really heal me in all those ways. And the reality is yes. And there's many master plants on the planet that many ancient traditions have been working with for thousands of years that we just don't have any awareness of. So once we experience it, that's when we can share we can really be that bridge for the more Western person. Like, this does exist. It actually is super, super beneficial. And here's all the information about how to do it safely and how to work with the right people.
And I was going to ask that there are those that are practicing this, but it could be not, I don't know if it can be dangerous, but who you do this with matters. You just want to Google and find the next ayahuasca ceremony in the middle of the Amazon.
Exactly.
Or in the middle, in your town, for that matter.
Absolutely. So I always recommend, if you guys are looking into this work, do a lot of research on ayahuasca specifically, and also on retreat centers or shaman that you're looking to work with. So safety is the number one priority with this work. You are opening up yourself to all realms, the spirit realm, and all dimensions. And so it's very important that you choose a shaman that's very, very, very experienced in their work, because they are serving as your protector within that space. And you are really surrendering to a force that's much greater than you. And so it's important that you have the right guide and the right safety mechanisms in place. So the container that you're in during the space that you're in, the environment that you're in is really important. The people that you're with, the size of the ceremony, you want the smaller the ceremony, the better. And also having the most experienced shaman. Also working in the jungle where the plants grow is really important. So I know there's a lot of circles sitting in the US illegally underground, whereas in other countries in Central South America, it's legal and it's part of their culture. But Up here in the States, it's illegal. And so there's a lot of people sitting in underground ceremonies with new and inexperienced shaman. And that's when things can go south because they're just not educated going into the ceremony. There's no proper health screening. There is definitely some major health contraindications for sitting with medicine. Certain medications you can't be on, certain health conditions you can't have. Otherwise, yeah, it can be a dangerous experience.
So if somebody's interested in this, where would you recommend them as a place to start?
So wow, there was a wonderful site called reset.me that recently just closed down. It was Amber Ryan's site, and it was a beautiful site. There's lots of great resources out there. I would say Aubrey Marcus is a great resource. He's got a documentary on both ayahuasca and wachuma that are really great. There's also just some other really great documentaries I recommend people watch because it really gives you the inside scoop as to what you can experience within these ceremonies and really see them. Literally, they show people sitting in ceremonies and how the shaman work. And so it's really helpful if you're looking to understand how it all works. So yeah, I'd say the go-to documentaries, one is called Ayahuasca, Nature's Greatest Gift. Another one is called Aya Awakenings. And then there's a primary one that focuses more on DMT, but it's a DMT, the spirit molecule. And those are recommendations I always give to people.
And when is your next retreat?
My next retreat is actually December, but my December, March, and April retreats are already full. So wow. I need to put out another.
So I can't squeeze in there.
No, you can. I love you too. I'll probably do it in May or June because there's so much. I have a waiting list, so I do need to put some more on the schedule. But yeah, this retreat, specifically the Epic Awakening, is extremely popular. So it does sell out 9 months in advance.
Okay, a couple more questions before we melt in here. And the one thing that you said that I've been really talking about in my workshops and masterminds and a little bit through my online work, but it's this idea of space.
Yeah.
And so time is space, but space, that's part of where we are. Is I think we don't have any space. That's the rat race we're in. It's just go, 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 go.
Yeah.
Fall into bed exhausted, don't even sleep well, get up and do that same thing again, just hoping at some time in the future, more space will open up.
Sure.
So, and just knowing that space needs to be created, that we have to create space for meditation. Yes. We need to create space for conversation. We need to create space for community and relationship. We need to create space for personal growth, professional growth, spiritual growth, like retreats. And so it's just creating the space and then designing our lives around those things versus we keep waiting to have more time in the future. It's like my future self will have more time to read that stack of books. My future self will have more time to do the retreats. My future self will have more time. And it's like, no. Right. We can create the space right now. But you also talked about holding space and how important that is. So, and I think that's another thing we're missing is we all have our lives and our feelings and our traumas, our insecurities, our just breakdowns. Our life is just kicking us in the teeth at the moment. Yeah. And we're isolated and alone. So how important it is when you're with someone else. That's what I loved about the ayahuasca retreats as well. It's like you can just go do work and just break down apart. Yeah. And somebody's holding space for that.
Yeah.
And like really holding you and holding that space. And I think that's part of feeling isolated, even if we're in the same room with a bunch of other people. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because we are so disconnected from what that feels like to be fully supported, because maybe we've never felt that way growing up. Maybe our families weren't there for us. Maybe we never experienced a super deep love in a romantic relationship. So a lot of us are running around just really disconnected from us. We've never felt it. Like you said before, like I'd never experienced unconditional love. I was the same way. I never experienced self-love ever.
Yeah, never.
Right. Never. Right. And then so in that process of learning what that felt like, then I could learn, like you said, I know the benchmark, and now I can start to learn to give and receive love differently between me and my relations, the people in my life. But I forget exactly where I was going with that, except that I think like you said, the challenge is how do I create that space and how do I hold space for other people? So much of the skill is learning how do I be there for other people? Because if you want other people to be there for you, you got to start with yourself and start to figure out how can I be a better listener? How can I be more present? You got to do the inner work first. If you want to create deeper relationships, it's going to start from you being that person for them. And just choosing those relationships wisely.
That's awesome. All right. So one final question I like to wrap up all my podcast interviews is to do a little myth busting. Oh. And so, because even you said the word truth, and I just noticed so much of just kind of what's out there is bullshit. I mean, you're bullshitted all the time. Every piece of marketing, you're not good enough. You need to buy this. You need to do that. You need to be in this social group. You need this status. And it's all just a bunch of messaging that's complete bullshit.
Agreed.
But we're all in there trying to do the best that we can. And so it's like, how do we just get down to the truth of who we are, the truth of our purpose, the truth of the meaning of what matters, the truth of who we really are, and who we want to be, and no more bullshit. Just start just cutting it out. And so, but it's so hard because there's so many quote unquote truths out there that are just, they're BS.
Yeah.
But it looks true. So is there anything that just some myth busting you want to do, or myth that you would like to debunk that you see that you're just, I'm calling BS on that one?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of them out there. I mean, we talked about so many of them today, which is like the comparison syndrome. Perfectionism is something I've battled a lot in my life. So I'd say one myth that I want to really bust is around perfectionism, is around not being enough, because that I think is the root to so many of our issues. So if I'm trying to be a perfectionist, chances are I don't think I'm enough in anything. And so I have to be perfect in order to be valued, in order to be loved. That's really the root of it. And so what I've had to do with my perfectionism over the years is really just learn to accept and embrace that, number one, I'm not perfect and I'll never be perfect. And that's perfectly okay. And that I need to accept all aspects of myself. So something I see in the spiritual community a lot is what we call spiritual bypassing, where people are trying to, they stuff down their bad emotions and their shadow side a lot in order to stay in the light, in order to be super positive and optimistic. And I think we all have our version of that, where we're just, oh no, this side of me doesn't exist. And this pain and trauma I have from my childhood, none of that exists. I'm just perfect and everything's okay. But it's learning how to embrace all aspects of ourselves. And if we can do that, then we have a chance at actually learning to love ourselves and love other people in a deeper way, and create the lifestyle and to live on purpose and doing something that really matters to us, because that's how we're going to connect to our hearts more fully, is if we can fully embrace and accept all aspects of ourselves.
Well, that's perfect. That's a great way to close. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for
and it's Epic Self on Instagram and epicself.com.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll make it very easy for everybody to find you. So thank you so much for sharing your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.